Hello and welcome to the first Visual Design 202 After Effects tutorial. This tutorial will cover the basics of the After Effects interface as well as some basic type animation with After Effects. Let's jump right into this. Here you'll see your menu bar. And here you'll have the most important of which will be your File and Composition tabs. Your File tab will be used to create your project, to open your recent projects, save your project, import files like audio files and sound files, as well as exporting your project to some format. Let's jump right into the interface. The first thing I want to do is explain a bit about the toolbar. The toolbar has icons in it which you can select. If you hover over the icons, you will see that it says selection tool, and then in brackets it'll give you the keyboard shortcut for that toolbar. You'll probably only be using the V and H keyboard shortcuts, which will be used to drag the stage and navigate through your stage. Below here is your project folder. The directory of your project will be displayed over here. You will basically be creating folders in here and things like that. The next thing I want to explain is the timeline navigation. This is familiar to you if you've used Flash before. So over here you'll have your layering menu, and over here you'll have the timeline navigation. A playhead will appear here as you do your animations, but you'll see that in a bit. The next thing I want to explain is the effects and presets menu. Over here, let me just quickly close this. After Effects has a tendency to lag a bit. It'll automatically by default just show a bunch of effects over here. You'll want to go into animation presets, and then you can see a bunch of things which have already been done for you which you can use. But we'll get more into that once we start animating the type. So let's start. What you're going to be doing is saying File, New and Project. You're going to save it somewhere by going File, Save As. Let's create a new demo over here. Just call it demo, and we'll call this demo as well. So your project has been created. You can see that by looking at this tab. The next thing we want to do is create a new composition so that something appears on our stage. So we can go to Composition and New Composition. A bunch of things here. The composition is basically elements of After Effects which you can throw effects on, or it can basically just be, it's sort of a group of effects, if that makes sense. You'll be grouping up effects, storing them in a composition, and then importing a composition into some main composition. So let's name this composition main. You can change a lot of things here. We'll talk about some presets at the moment. I think it's on HDTV at the moment, the 1081. But you can change the width and height as meets your requirements. I think for your Flash projects, you'll probably be using 1024 by 768. And then you'll want to lock the aspect ratio. The next thing is the frame rate. It defaults at 24/25. You'll have to look at this in your frame rate on Flash as well and make these consistent. You can't have inconsistent frame rates, like a frame rate of 25 on After Effects and a frame rate of 30 on Flash. So what you'll want to be doing is making sure that the frame rate on both of your softwares are exactly the same. The next thing you'll want to do is looking at the time code. The time code works as milliseconds, seconds, minutes, hours. It starts at 0. And you'll want to end it at, well, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'll end it at about 20 seconds. Let's use about 20 seconds for the type animation we're going to do. Then you can select a background for your composition by sliding over these sort of values. And yeah, that's basically the gist of the composition settings. So let's create a new composition. Immediately you'll see it appears on our stage. Now you can use the H tool. Just hold it in and you can drag around. Sorry, After Effects lagging again. But you can drag around and then the stage will drag with the mouse. Alright, so let's start animating some type. You'll see here in your project folder the composition appeared. But we'll look into that a bit more later on in this semester. Okay, let's put some basic type on it. The type tool is over here. You can just use Control T, but let's use Control T and you can just click on it, and let's do something like hello. Oh, that's very big. Let's just change. Well, I'll show that now. We've created one word now. We can see it's a little bit large. You can change this by just clicking on it, going to the character tab next to the effects and presets. Now you can change the font. I think I'm going to use agency for this. I'm going to change the font size down quite a bit. Let's say to about that. And let's change that to 0%. Oh god, no, 100%. So that the normal font is there. You won't have to change these values. It's just because I was playing around with it earlier, but I'll explain this more as we go on with the type. Okay, we have one word in here at the moment. Let's make this capital letters actually. And what we're going to do is we're going to be creating quite a few of these words. This, and you can just press enter to make it stop typing. Is enter, VIO, and 202, and enter. Alright, so before we start animating it, let's talk about the positioning of some of these things. You can do quite a bit of imaginary and creative positioning on your text. I'm going to be doing a very rudimentary one, which you probably won't be using at all, but it's a stepping stone into greater formatting of the text. So let's just scale the hello up, so we'll increase its font size over here to about 150 pixels, so it's very large. Then let's make this appear over there. You can scroll in with your mouse wheel. Let's just scroll in again. Okay, we can see that these two aren't aligned perfectly. Now let's look a bit at the layers over here. You can open the hello. You can just click on it and it'll highlight the layer for you. Extend it and go to transform, and you'll see the position tab. Its y-axis at the moment is its x and y axis at the moment are 30 and 168. Let's just make that 170 to get a bit more consistency over here. And you can do the same for the this word in its layer and look at its positioning. I think what I'm going to do is you can just click on it and press the arrow keys to move it down. So what I like to do is just positioning it on top of each other and then just extending it to make sure that it's exactly the same. Y value over there. The Y value over here is from the bottom left corner of the word over there. So let's put the word is over here. You can see this doesn't work, but let's just put it on the same Y value as the hello, which is 170. Just click on the is again, extend it, click on the transform, go to its position and put that as 170. Now let's scale down the word is. Alright, it's fine. And its x is at 330 and the word this is x is at 325. So let's move that up a bit so that they're perfectly aligned. Okay, so we have this is, and let's take the word VIO, and what we can do is sort of do the same thing over here. We're just going to position it with the text over there at the y-axis, and we're going to make sure it's at the same y value, which is 170. Just close some of these layers. Go to VIO, transform, position, and make it the same. And what we'll do is we will again just scale down the font so that it's sort of the same font. Now, a couple of things over here. You can use the text scale, the horizontal scale tool over here, to scale some of these words to be a bit longer if you want. Be careful when doing this because it might distort your type like it's doing right now, but it's okay. We want to make sure sort of that it's scaled perfectly and in line with the word on top of it. Right. So we have hello, this is VIO, and let's take the word 202, we'll throw it over here, we'll increase its font size to quite larger, and we'll scale it a bit. Let's change its font. You can click on that and just press down on your arrow keys, and we can scale the width back, and make sure again, as always, that the X values on the position is perfectly aligned. Okay, it's not going to work quite well at the moment because this is scaled. Let's just see, positions 20. Okay, that's strange. It might be because of the font is different, but you can just use your eye to just see that it sort of does a perfect match up with the rest of these words. Scale it up a bit. 115 I think is right for this. Okay, and these two things. Okay, if you click on both of them by holding in shift, you can immediately see that the bottom one is not aligned perfectly. Let's move it up a bit, and again it's not aligned. Bit back, bit left, and there we have a perfect alignment. And if we look at this and this, you can see there's already a big problem there. Scale this back again and just look at the sort of problems on those red blocks. 112 I think will work. No, it's too large. 1. That's almost perfect. Let's just do 110 as well. No, that's fine. Okay, so we have our basic words designed in this sort of space. Let's move the 202 up a little bit to get a bit more of a comfortable line. No, it was actually fine as it was. Cool. Yeah. So let's move all. You can select all of this by just dragging over it, and you can just move it to the center of your screen. Again, the H tool to move your camera and the stage around. Okay, so let's talk about throwing a bit of effects on here. Remember to save regularly with After Effects. But anyway, to begin animating this, let's just close all our layers. You will go to the Effects and Presets tab. Now, I want to fade these words into the stage. I want to make them appear gradually. So I'm going to go to the animation presets. I'm going to see, okay, well, I'm animating text, and I want to animate it in. So I'm going to extend these folders. Now here are a bunch of effects which you can use on these words. You can simply drag and drop them from here onto whatever word you want. So let's do a typewriter effect on the word hello. You'll see it disappears, but don't worry, it didn't disappear. Go to your playhead over here and drag it, and you'll see that the word hello appears on your animation. Now we don't want the other words to show just yet. So what I like to do is navigate the playhead until the end of the effect, select all the rest of the layers and move them up until they disappear. Well, until they appear again. Now what happens over here is that all of them disappeared and the word hello appears, and then again the next one appears. So let's throw a bit more, let's throw some random effects on each of these words. I'm going to do, let's see, center spiral on this. I'm going to do character shuffle in on is. I'm going to do drop in my character on VIO. And I'm going to be doing a, let's see, where is it? Raining characters in on 202. Now, again, problem with that effect is that the VIO still appears. We'll see now how we can mitigate that, but essentially what you're going to be doing is look at the next word you want, which is this, which appears right there, over there. So what you'll do is you'll move the rest of all of the top layers just out. And we can do it a bit more. The next one we want to look at is the word is, and it appears right around there. And again, just move these two up and right so that they disappear. And the next word we want is VIO. So after that we'll just move 202 out. So let's look a bit at how this works at the moment. Hello, this is VIO, and then 202. It'll fade in like that. That is the basics of throwing effects on text and animating type. One thing that I will do, however, is I will activate the motion blur on each of these to give a bit of a smoother animation. Now, you've created your effects. How do you render them? Over here in your preview tab, you will see there is a button which says RAM preview. Click on that. Mine is set to full screen at the moment, but it'll preview it and then just show you how it looks after the video has been rendered. And effects, blah blah blah. Cool. You can set it to full screen like mine is by clicking on the full screen tab over there, but I wouldn't suggest doing that. It's just for demo purposes at the moment. If you don't do full screen, it'll just do this on your stage. So personal preference. There's a bit of an issue over here, but I'll show you now. Let's just stop this. If you look at this layer, it's not extending until the end of the timeline. So just drag it to the end of the timeline. The other thing as well is that it's a bit slow at the moment, all of these things. So let's look about how we can go. Let's look at how we can go about speeding up some of these effects and giving a bit of more of a custom feel to it. So let's just go to the word hello, extend it again. Immediately you'll see two black circles appear. Those are where the keyframes of the animation are. They always line up with the property where they're animated in. So for example, this one is animated on text. If I extend text, you'll see that it goes up to the animator 1, and then to range selector 1, and then your keyframes appear. So what you can do now is, this is a starting keyframe, so you'll probably not be messing with that a lot, but we can take the ending keyframe and drag it earlier, and then your animation speeds up and ends there. So after you've done that, you can go about moving the other layers as well. So just move them up to where the playhead currently is, and that speeds up the animation of hello. So let's look at what that means. If I RAM preview again, it already goes a lot faster. It's instead of going very, very slow. So you can do that for each of these effects. Just open it again, look at where the black dots are, open that property. You'll see there are multiple keyframes on this one. We want to have sort of, you'll basically be animating both of them, so just extend both of them. You can take these two keyframes, hold in shift, and you can drag them together to be faster. And you can drag that one individually as well to make it go in faster, spin in faster. And that is basically the gist of animating type in After Effects. So let's just go over again what we covered today. We covered some of the basic elements of the interface. We covered the toolbar and keyboard shortcuts. We toggled layering and how to, we talked about how to put in text, how to change its type and work with the type. We talked about fonts. We talked about, let me just show you how to color your font. You simply select it, you click on this button, and you can click on any color and it will change it to the color you want. Okay. Control Z will be your go back button or undo button. Okay, let's go on. What we also covered was composition, the composition menu. We covered the effects menu and sort of a bunch of effects which are here, and you can play around with these because I'm not going to show you all of them. We talked about the motion blur, which basically gives you a smooth animation. Like I said, this interface will be familiar to you if you've used Flash. So you get your layer lock there as well. You can get to view this layer as well. You can play around with that. Then we talked about the project folder and compositions. They group effects. As you can see, this composition contains a bunch of layers and effects. If you create another composition, you are actually able to drag this main composition into that composition. Let me show you that. Let's say test, and we can drag main in here, and then our main composition appears, and you can see that you've just thrown an entire effect into one composition, which is quite cool. That is all I'm going to be showing you for today. Please let me know if there are any issues with this, and yeah, we'll talk again a bit later.